Hey guys, it's Bree. I hope you're having a fantastic almost weekend. I am like a lot of people and I put off some of my Christmas shopping and I thought you might be in the same boat, so I figured I would try and give you some quick Christmas ideas, especially since, Amazon needs 2 days to ship to me and Christmas is in three. So, you know, I'll try to link everything down below. So this will just be really quick. The first thing I had on my list, I think of this when I think of kind of like the perfect middle schooler, early high school gift. So right in that age when you're kind of seeking out fun new stuff, when you're not necessarily closed off to something a little bit more fantastical and silly, and that is the Tiffany Aching series. It starts with The We Free Men. This is by Terry Pratchett and follows a young girl who she's a witch, but in this universe, which is kind of, their powers are much more mundane. They're kind of more about taking care of people and being the kind of person other people can depend on than they are about actually having any kind of magic. I love these books. I love them so much. I wish that I had had these when I was like 13 years old. They're pretty fantastic. I cannot recommend them enough. The next one is kind of for somebody who's a little bit more of a casual reader, someone who might want to pick things up and put them down and maybe doesn't have a ton of time to read. It's a little long considering that that's who I was thinking about for this, but that's The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And the reason I picked this is because it is still a cohesive story, but it's very episodic. So every chapter builds upon the others, but they kind of stand on their own, and I like that about it. There's nothing about this book that feels terribly heavy. It's a really fun read and a little bit easy in its own way, but still engaging. For me, reading this book was like watching a season of a really good TV show. Just very binge worthy, but if I didn't have the time to binge it, it wouldn't make it any less great. For the Politico in your family, I think White Working Class is a fantastic book. This is by Joan C. Williams. This is about the idea of the isolated kind of white working class in American politics and what it has meant for them to see the kind of economic and social changes we've seen over the last, say, 50 years. This is really, really short, but it is very poignant, and I think very well written, and very well cited, too. For the space geek / action adventure lover, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Providence by Anne Leckie. I think this is really fun. It's not overly heavy, which is something that I think her Ancillary Justice books and her Imperial Radich trilogy would feel like to me. It doesn't have that same heaviness to it, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Again, very binge-worthy, but just kind of like a heist book with a little bit of extra political intrigue for fun. When I think of giving Christmas gifts, I always think of everyone's like angsty, 17-year-old emo cousin, right? Probably because I was pretty close to being that kid. And so I'm going to go ahead and suggest, don't let the cover fool you. This is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty. She's a YouTuber here. She has a channel called Ask a Mortician, where she talks about all of the different things that kind of go on in a crematory, go on in a mortuary house, but also really interesting things too, like what does this random, preserved body in Belize mean? How did it get there? And like, why would it be preserved this way? Or going and kind of touring the catacombs in Paris. So she's really interesting. I love her channel. You should definitely go watch it. But this is, again, really short, and I think it's really engaging. She has a very distinctive narrative voice, and of course the subject matter and her sense of humor, I think, lend itself to that little emo kid in us all. And then, of course, my favorite kind of go-to suggestion this year has been Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire, which is a fantastic story about a a bunch of kids who go to portal fantasy worlds and they come back and no longer fit in, and kind of have to cling to one another in this really odd school. It's short, it's fantastic, it explores what it's like to be a teenager, what it's like to not be in a place where you know you belong, what it's like to feel like no one really truly understands you, all at the same time as having to deal with things like your sexuality and like teenage dynamics in school. It's really fantastic, and I'm not normally like a boarding school story kind of person, but I hands down have loved it. So there you go. I will try to link all these down below, and maybe I'll see if I can link to some wrapping paper too, because if you're like me, you also need that. Go ahead and leave your ideas for quick gifts down below, because I'm sure everyone else will also find that useful. And I will talk to you later. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy holidays.